Hello, everybody. Welcome to session 1 of Unit 8 Human Biology. And today we'll be discussing about chapter Digestive System of Human. Before we dive into chapter, let us know about a great surgeon, William Beaumont. He was an American surgeon and he pioneered the research on human digestive system. That is why he is well known as the father of gastric physiology. When you talk about digestive system, then digestive system of human is composed of two main parts, alimentary canal and digestive glands. Alimentary canal, it is also known as food pipe. It is the principal digestive organ of digestive system. And when you look at alimentary canal, it is long coiled tube with different diameter, and it measures about 8 to 10 meter long in human body, which extends from mouth up to anus. It is divided into different parts, starting with mouth and then buccal cavity, that is the cavity that comes after the mouth. Then we have pharynx, the posterior part of buccal cavity, esophagus, stomach or bag-like structure. Then we have a small intestine, large intestine, and lastly, anus. So one by one, we'll be discussing about each and every part of alimentary canal. Now let's begin with mouth. So as we all know, it is the first part of alimentary canal, and it is transversely opening part of alimentary canal, which is guarded by two leaves, upper leaves and lower leaves. And the main function of mouth is to help in ingestion of food. The mouth, it opens into a spacious cavity known as buccal cavity, which is bounded by upper jaw and lower jaw, and it leads posteriorly into a cavity that is known as pharynx. It consists of three parts inside it. One is palate, which is the roof of buccal cavity. Then we have triangular muscular organ known as tongue, and the hard and pointed structure known as teeth. Palate, it is the roof of buccal cavity. Anteriorly, it is hard, whereas posteriorly, it is soft. It consists of a muscular hanging leaf-like structure known as uvula, which prevents the entry of food and water into the opening of nose, that is known as nostrils. Tongue, it is a triangular musculosensory organ, and it lies on the floor of buccal cavity. It is made up of voluntary muscles, or also known as striated muscles, and it is posteriorly attached to a bone that is present in the neck. That bone is known as hyoid bone. Dorsal surface of tongue, it contains numerous projections, and those projections are called papillae, which contains taste buds. There are three types of papillae you can see on the surface of tongue. The first is circumvallate papillae. It is large in structure and present at the base of tongue, and it is just 8 to 10 in number. Similarly, we have another papillae known as filiform papillae, and that is present on central part of tongue, which covers almost two-third part of the tongue, and it is small and white in color. And the last papillae we have is known as fungiform papillae, and it is medium size and present on the lateral side of the tongue and anterior part of tongue, and it is reddish in color. These all papillae have got taste buds, and the function of taste buds is to taste the food. Our tongue has capacity to taste 5 different tastes, and those taste buds are divided or located on the tongue in 4 different regions. The anterior part and the anterior lateral part, they taste like anterior part of the tongue. It will have the taste bud which can taste sweet taste. Similarly, anterior lateral part of the tongue, it can taste salty taste. Similarly, lateral side of tongue, it can taste sour taste, and the back, the posterior part of the tongue, it has taste bud which can taste bitter taste. That is why when we are happen to taste the bitter, we cannot notice it immediately. We find that bitter taste a bit later because the taste buds which are responsible to detect bitter taste, it is present at the posterior part of the tongue. Regarding the function of tongue, its main function is to, of course, taste the food, as well as it helps to mix the food with saliva. Similarly, it helps in articulation, means speech, and it helps to clean the teeth. Now let's talk about teeth. So teeth are hard and pointed structure which are connected to or which are embedded in the jawbone. Human teeth, it has got three main properties: thecodont, diffodont, and heterodont. Each have meaning. Thecodont means human teeth are embedded, deep embedded in the sockets of jaw. That is why human teeth are considered as one of the strongest teeth, because these teeth are deeply embedded in the sockets of jaw. That's why it is one of the strongest teeth among the kingdom of animal. Similarly, it is also known as diffident because in the life of human, there will be two sets of teeth erect. The first set of teeth in child, that is known as milk teeth or deciduous teeth, which later replaced by permanent teeth at the age of 6 to 18 years. Later on, wisdom teeth, not in all case, but in some human, once they get age of 20, then the another teeth, wisdom teeth, may erupt. The branch of biology which study about teeth, that branch of biology is known as odontology. So as we told before, the human teeth have three properties: thecodont, diffodont, and heterodont. Heterodont means our teeth are of different shape and size. According to that, we human have four different type of teeth. The first is incisor teeth, which lie in the front uh, area of jaw, and it is for the biting purpose. And we have canine teeth. It is lying slightly on the side of incisor teeth, and it is pointed teeth, and its main function is to tear the flesh. And then we have premolar teeth, and lastly we have molar teeth. They are also known as cheek teeth, and they are broad teeth, and main use of premolar and molar teeth is to help in grinding the food, help in mastication of the food. Every animal has a, a particular dental formula. So in human also we have particular dental formula. In children we have a total 20 teeth you can find. Once that children turn into adult, then the adult will have 32 teeth. So the formula, dental formula for children is 2102 by 2102. Here the first two represents incisor, then canine, then premolar and molar. So in the human children, incisor teeth will be two on the upper jaw, one will be on canine teeth, there will be no molar teeth in the children, and then molar teeth two. So it is half side on the upper jaw, and the lower part is the number of teeth in the lower jaw half. So that's why if you calculate total, it becomes 20. Similarly for the adult has incisor 2 in the upper jaw, and canine 1, premolar 2, and molar 3. So this is upper jaw, upper half upper jaw. And the lower upper half jaw has incisor 2, canine 1, premolar 2, and then molar 3. So altogether, if you multiply by 2, then it becomes total 32 teeth. And regarding the structure of any tooth that is present in our buccal cavity, so almost all basic structure of all teeth are similar, though shape can be different. So each tooth consists of three parts. So crown, neck, and root. So as it is shown in the figure, crown is the upper part of the tooth, and it is covered by white enamel, which is considered as one of the hardest substance present in the human body, below which you can find the dentine. Now next we have neck, and neck it lies between crown and root, and it is surrounded by the gum. And root, it is the part of the tooth which is implanted into jaw, and it is fixed by cementum. Center of root has a cavity that you can see. A cavity is seen here, and that cavity is known as pulp cavity, and this pulp cavity is filled with gelatinous substance called pulp, and this pulp cavity also contains, that you can see here, blood vessels and nerves. Function of teeth is to mainly helps in grinding food or mastication of food. Now, buccal cavity is followed by the pharynx. The pharynx is this part is buccal cavity, and the posterior part of buccal cavity is pharynx. So, buccal cavity, pharynx is also a cavity which lies posteriorly of buccal cavity, and it is common passage for both ear as well as foot. And when you look at the uh, pharynx, since it lies behind nasal cavity and buccal cavity, so it is divided into three parts. The upper part is known as nasopharynx. The middle part, which is just lying posterior to buccal cavity, that is called oropharynx. And the lower part of pharynx is known as laryngopharynx or hypopharynx. So nasopharynx, as you see, it is just lying posterior to nasal cavity. That means it is responsible to bring in the air from nasal cavity. And oropharynx, it lies just behind the buccal cavity, and it is the area where the food will be coming from the buccal cavity into the pharynx. And laryngopharynx, it is the posterior most part of pharynx, and it is also known as hypopharynx, and it consists of two openings that you can see here. One is the front opening, that is called glottis, which lead into a windpipe, and this opening is called glottis, which is covered by a uh, leaf-like lead. That lead is called epiglottis, which close the opening of uh, glottis, that is known as the opening of the windpipe. So this epiglottis prevent the entry of food and water. When you take in the food and water, it will remain closed so that the food and water will not go to the windpipe. The glottis, as I told you, it is closed by a lead-like structure known as epiglottis, and we have another opening, and that opening is called gullet, from which the food will pass into the food pipe. Oesophagus, this is oesophagus, and is it it comes after the pharynx, and it is short and narrow tube. It is almost 25 centimeter long and 2 centimeter wide, and it passes through our neck, chest, and finally enters into the abdomen and join with the stomach. And it has no major function. The function of oesophagus is to simply to conduct the food from the pharynx into the stomach. Stomach, it is the widest part of alimentary canal that you can see in figure as well, and it lies in the upper part of abdominal cavity slightly towards the left side, and it consists of two parts. The interior larger part, it is known as cardiac stomach, whereas the posterior narrow funnel shaped structure, that is known as pyloric stomach. So in broad way, the stomach of human is divided into two parts. The larger part is known as cardiac stomach, whereas posterior narrow funnel shaped structure, that part of the stomach is known as pyloric stomach. And cardiac stomach consists of further two parts. The upper, the swelling part, that is known as fundus, where esophagus opens, and the remaining part is known as lower body. Internally, either it is cardiac or pyloric stomach, it contains inside many transverse folds, and those transverse folds are known as gastric rug, and these help to increase the surface area of stomach. It has two openings. One opening is near the cardiac stomach, and other near the end of pyloric stomach, and these openings are guarded with ring of muscles, and those ring of muscles are known as sphincter. So the one which is present between cardiac stomach and uh, cardiac and esophagus, that is known as cardiac sphincter, and the sphincter that is present between pyloric stomach and the small intestine, that is known as pyloric sphincter. Since it acts as a bulb, so it prevents the backward flow of food. That means the food which has come into stomach, it will not allow to flow back. The inner lining of the stomach, it also possesses different kind of glands, and those glands are known as gastric glands, and these gastric glands secrete juice known as juice, and the juice contains hydrochloric acid, enzyme pepsinogen, prorenin, and mucus. The function of esophagus, stomach, is to mainly store the food and helps in partial digestion of food. Our stomach is followed by small intestine. So it pyloric stomach is after the pyloric stomach, the small intestine begins, and it is long coiled tube of about 6.25 centimeter, meter long, and it is divided into three parts. The anterior part, which is C-shaped, that part of the small intestine is known as duodenum, and it is a short and narrow tube of 25 centimeter long, and here pancreas, a gland that is present, that is open into this duodenum, and duodenum is followed by jejunum, and it represents the middle part of small intestine, and lastly the ileum is the longest part of small intestine, and it is present after the jejunum, and it is highly coiled structure, and it is held together by a thin membranous structure known as mesenteries. And let me tell you, small intestine is the area where main digestion and absorption of food takes place. Small intestine is followed by large intestine. It is long, wide, and thin walled tube, and it extends up to anus. It is divided into four parts. The first part is cecum. It is a blind sac-like structure that contains finger-like projection known as vermiform appendix. And in the case of human, it doesn't have any function. That means it is a vestigial organ. But in other grazing animals, its function is to help in digestion of raw food. But in the case of humans, since we take in all food in cooked condition, that's why it doesn't have any function. So it is a functionless organ in human body. Then we have colon. So colon, it is the largest part of intestine and forms arc shape around the small intestine. It consists of ascending colon. This part of the colon is known as ascending colon because it is going upward. Then we have the horizontal one, that is called transverse colon, and then we have downward moving colon, that is called descending colon, and lastly we have sigmoid colon. So these all colon, it helps to absorb excess water and ultimately form the human feces, or we can call it stool. And this large intestine also contains bacteria, and those bacteria are responsible to produce vitamins in our body. And lastly we have rectum. So rectum, it is a small thin walled tube in which the villi are reduced in size. Villi means it is the structure which helps in absorption. So those are not present here. It temporarily store the feces, and later on, whatever the feces collected in rectum, it will open outside through the anus and through the feces which are stored in the rectum. Anus, it is the last opening of the alimentary canal, and it is guarded by two sets of sphincter, internally internal sphincter and externally external sphincter. And internal sphincter is involuntary, means it is not under the control of our will. It is controlled by our brain. It is automatically, it is under the autonomic nervous system. An external sphincter, it is voluntary one, and it can be open or closed by our will. And it helps in ejection. Ejection means throwing out the waste from our body. As I told you, our digestive system is made up of two components, alimentary canal and digestive system. So we finished alimentary canal. Now let us go to digestive glands. So digestive glands have got very important role in our digestive system. And in human body, there are mainly 5 types of digestive glands present, starting from salivary glands, liver, pancreas, gastric glands, and intestinal glands. So now we'll be discussing each and every digestive glands. So let's begin with salivary glands. So these glands are branched alveolo-tubular glands, means it is highly branched structure, and total they are present in 3 pairs of salivary glands. The first one is called parotid salivary glands, which is present over here, and these are the larger one among the rest of the salivary glands, and it lies on the base of lobe of ear. Our pinna, we have ear pinna, so just at the base of our ear pinna it is present, and it opens on the upper jaw. Then we have another is submandibular salivary glands. So these glands lie below the lower jaw, and it opens below the tongue. Then we have another is submaxillary salivary glands, and these glands lie below the tongue on the floor of buccal cavity. And these salivary glands, it secretes the watery fluid known as saliva, and saliva contains an enzyme known as salivary amylase, or it is also known as ptyalin. And ptyalin helps to digest starch present in our food and convert into a transition, let's say semi-digested food known as maltose and isomaltose. Let's go to liver. It is the largest gland of a human body, and it lies in the upper abdominal cavity towards the right side. Stomach present on the left side, and just on the right side liver is present, and it consists of 4 lobes that you can see. So you can see 2 major lobes. They are right lobe and left lobe, and 2 minor lobes that you can see from the back side. Caudate lobe, this is caudate lobe, and we have the other small lobe that is called quadrate lobe. The color of the liver is reddish brown in color, and if we see anatomically, then it consists of large number of hexagonal structure known as hepatic lobules, and each hepatic lobule consists of multiple liver cells, which are known as hepatocytes. There are 2 types of cells, and then hepatic cells you can see, and there are 2 types. One is hepatocytes, so major liver cells, and it is responsible to produce bile juice, which help in digestion of fat. And we have another cell known as Kupffer cells, and they are phagocytic in nature and helps to destroy germs. Liver cells, which are present in the hepatic lobules, which are hexagonal in structure, they arrange in a row that you can see. They arrange in a row or in a line, and that is called trabeculae, and have a space between that trabeculae. That space is known as sinusoid. When you talk about liver, then it has got very important function in digestive system. So the first function of liver is, as it is made up of hepatic cells, so the function of that hepatic cell is to produce bile juice, which is alkaline in nature or basic in nature, and it helps to reduce acidity of hydrochloric acid. which is produced in stomach, and it has another function. It helps to emulsify the fat, means breaking down the fat. It also balances the glucose in blood by the process of glycogenesis, by converting glucose into glycogen in presence of insulin hormone produced by pancreas. And it also helps in glycogenolysis, in which the stored glycogen converts into glucose whenever it is needed in presence of glucagon hormone produced again by the pancreas. It converts excess amino acid present in the blood into ammonia, and the process is known as deamination. And sometimes we may take the toxic substance in our body, so it detoxifies ammonia and other toxins like alcohol, poison, drug, etc. It also forms blood clotting factor like fibrinogen, which are present in the blood plasma. It produces heat in our body. It stores vitamins that is produced in our body. It secretes the heparin chemical that prevents the intravenous clotting of blood. Now let's go to the third digestive glands, pancreas. It lies in the loop of duodenum that I discussed before. It is soft, yellowish colored structure, and as I told, it is present in the loop, that C-shaped curvature of duodenum. It consists of three parts: head, body, and tail. The front part is known as head, then body, and the last part is known as tail. And histologically, means anatomically, it is heterocrine gland, means mixed gland, because it consists of both exocrine and endocrine gland. Its exocrine part consists of pancreatic lobule, or it is also known as acini. So the peripheral part, they represent exocrine gland, and they are known as either pancreatic lobule or acini. And each acinus, it is made up of wedge-shaped cells that you can see here. And these cells are secretory in nature, and they secrete the enzyme. They secrete the juice first, and those juice are known as pancreatic juice, which consist of enzymes like trypsin, chymotrypsin, peptidase, lipase, and nucleases. The core part of pancreas, it represents endocrine part, and it consists of group of cells among the acini, and that group of cells is known as isolates of Langerhans. It consists of, whenever we check isolates of Langerhans, then you can see it is made up of three types of cells. Here, the blue cells are known as alpha cell. We have light blue cells known as beta cells, and pink color cells are known as delta cells. And each cells produces different kind of hormone. Like alpha cell, it produces hormone known as glucagon. Beta cells, it produces hormone known as insulin. And we have delta cells that produces a hormone known as somatostatin hormone. So glucagon that was produced by alpha cell, it play the role to convert glycogen, which is stored in liver and muscles, into glucose whenever necessary in our body. So this hormone is produced whenever we are fasting. So in fasting, our blood has low glucose level, so this hormone get activated and convert the glycogen, which is stored in liver and muscles, into glucose, and helps to balance the glucose level in the blood. Whereas we have another cell, beta cell, it produces a hormone known as insulin, and this insulin is produced right after our meal. So after meal, our blood has more glucose, so it helps to balance the glucose level in blood by lowering the glucose, by converting extra glucose present in the blood into glycogen, and this glycogen later will be stored in either muscles or liver. And we have delta cell, which is pink color here. It secretes hormone known as somatostatin, And the function of somatostatin hormone is to regulate the secretion of both these hormones known as glucagon and insulin. Now let's go to gastric glands. As name suggests, it is present on the wall of stomach, and it is highly branched tubular glands, and it secrete gastric juice. And there are three types of glands, I mean cells, present in the wall of this gastric glands. The first is parietal cell. It is also known as oxyntic cell. Then we have chief cells, and we have goblet cell. So each cell secrete different juice in the stomach. Like parietal cell, which are present in gastric gland, it secrete acid known as hydrochloric acid, and these acids have very important function during digestion of food. The first of all, it makes food acidic, and because of that, the food may contain bacteria or microbes. So it this acid will help to destroy those microbes or bacteria present in food. Similarly, it will soften the hard substance like bones into uh, soft structure, because bones are hard, so it helps to soften the hard substances when we consume it. Similarly, it activates the inactive enzyme known as pepsinogen, which is produced in stomach into active pepsin, and it also converts inactive renin enzyme into active enzyme known as renin. So here, uh, the acid hydrochloric acid helps to activate the enzyme, and there are two enzymes produced in stomach, pepsinogen and prorenin. So hydrochloric acid will make active this enzyme, converting pepsinogen into pepsin and prorenin into renin. Similarly, it also helps to regulate the opening and closing of pyloric aperture present at pyloric stomach. Now let's go to the second cell present in the gastric gland known as chief cell, and it produces or it secretes the enzymes known as pepsinogen, prorenin, and lipase. Out of these three enzymes produced by chief cell, the first two enzymes are inactive, which are activated by hydrochloric acid, converting pepsinogen into pepsin and prorenin into renin. Similarly, the lipase we have, it is active but very weak in stomach, and it helps to digest small amount of fat, converting into fatty acid and glycerol. Now we have third cell present in the gastric gland known as goblet cell, or it is also known as G cell. And the main function of the goblet cell is to secrete mucus. It reduces the acidic effect of hydrochloric acid, pepsin, or renin to stomach wall. Because if the mucus does not cover the wall of the stomach, then these hydrochloric acid and these enzymes may start consuming the wall of stomach, and that is called autodigestion. So it helps to reduce the impact of those chemicals, hydrochloric acid and enzyme. And similarly, the mucus produced by the goblet cell to make the food slippery so that it can easily pass from stomach to duodenum. And let me tell you, the protein that is present in the food, it is mainly digested here in stomach. Little fat is digested, but there will be no digestion of carbohydrate or starch. Intestinal glands. This is the last type of glands present in the human digestive system, and they are, as the name suggests, it is present on the wall of small intestine, and there are two types. One is crypts of Leverkun, and other is Barnes gland. Let's discuss one by one. Crypts of Leverkun, they are tubular glands found between villi. So these finger-like projections are known as villi, which are present on the wall of small intestine. So these villi are responsible to absorb the digested food present in the small intestine. So this gland, cryptoliver liver gland, it is present between villi, and its wall consists of the tall cells known as columnar epithelial cells, and the name of the cells are zymogen and argentine cells, and those cells produce hormone like secretin, pancreazymin, cholecystokinin, enterogastrin, serotonin, and enterocrinin. So these secretion of pancreatic juice, this secretin that is produced here as a hormone, so this results secretion of pancreatic juice from the pancreas, and cholecystokinin, which is produced as hormone by the scripts of liver cone. It helps to release bile juice from the liver. Now we have next gland present in the intestinal gland is Brunner's gland that you can see here. These are tubular glands present only in the submucosal layer of duodenum. Submucosa means below the mucosal layer, and it secretes intestinal juice, which contains different enzymes like lipase, enterokinase, maltase or lactase or sucrase, isomaltase, and nucleases. So these enzymes helps to digest different nutrients like lipase. It helps to digest fat, and the digestion of fat, it has started from stomach, but it was a weak enzyme in stomach. But when those fat comes in the small intestine, then the lipase produced by Burners gland over here, it will completely digest all the remaining fats present in the food. We have another enzyme known as enterokinase, and it helps to activate the inactive trypsinogen to form the active trypsin. We have maltase or lactose sucrase. It acts on enzyme like nutrients like maltose uh, and from the glucose. Lactase act upon lactose, sucrase act upon sucrose. We have isomaltase, so it will convert isomaltose to the glucose. And nucleases, it acts upon nucleoprotein present in the DNA of our food and form the purine and pyrimidine, which are nitrogen bases. With this, we finish the gland. Now, let us discuss how the digestion takes place in our body. So, that is called physiology of digestion. So, physiology of digestion means it is the process of conversion of complex food particles into simpler form for their absorption, and that occurs in our alimentary canal with the help of different enzymes. So, that is called digestion. So after digestion, the carbohydrate, which is complex food, it turns into glucose, and it takes place by the help of enzyme known as amylase. And we have protein as a complex food. After digestion, it converts into amino acid, and it will take place by the help of enzyme, and they are called proteolytic enzymes. And we may have fat or lipid in our food, which is also complex food particles. After digestion, those fat or lipid will turn into fatty acid or glycerol with the help of enzyme known as lipolytic enzyme. Uh, though carbohydrate, protein, fat, have they need to convert into simple form by the help of enzyme, but there are also other nutrients present in the food like vitamins or minerals, but they don't need to convert into a simple form. They can be directly absorbed by our body. And let me tell you, digestion in human, it starts from buccal cavity, and it will continue in stomach and completes in the small intestine. So in human, digestion begins from buccal cavity with the help of enzyme known as thylaine. So let's start. So digestion in buccal cavity. So first of all, the food is taken in. After food is taken in, then in buccal cavity, the food will be grinded into small particles with the help of teeth, and then tongue helps to mix the small particles of food with saliva, and the saliva has enzyme known as ptyalin, and the ptyalin converts starch or carbohydrate present in our food into semi-digested form known as maltose. So in this case, uh, the in buccal cavity, the digestion is of two types. One is mechanical digestion and chemical digestion. So as I told before, during the mechanical digestion, the food which has been taken in buccal cavity, those food will be broken down into small food particles by the help of teeth, and this process is known as mastication. And this type of digestion is called mechanical digestion. After food is converted into food particles, then there the saliva will be mixed with the help of tongue, and those saliva have got enzyme known as ptyalin, and this enzyme ptyalin act upon the small food particles and convert into the semi-digested form that is known as maltose. After the partial digestion, then food will be swallowed in the form of uh, ball-like structure, and that ball-like structure which is swallowed from the buccal cavity, that structure is known as bolus. So bolus is semi-digested food which uh, which is swallowed from the buccal cavity, and they are in semi-solid structure. So bolus is swallowed through the esophagus, and finally it will reach the stomach. And when the bolus passes through the esophagus, then the wall of esophagus it will continuously contract and relaxes, and that movement is known as peristalsis. And because of that peristalsis movement, the food particle which is present here, it will be pushed downward into the stomach, and that movement of the wall of stomach is known as peristalsis movement. So now food has reached the stomach. After reaching into stomach, then the food will be mixed with gastric juice, and gastric juice is produced by the gastric gland present on the wall of the stomach. And this gastric juice contains different fluid like hydrochloric acid, inactive enzyme pepsinogen, prorenin, and we have lipase and mucus. So as I told before, hydrochloric acid, which is produced or which is present in the gastric juice, the main function of hydrochloric acid is to make the food acidic, and due to that, the germs that is present in the food will be killed. And similarly, it activates the inactive enzyme known as pepsinogen and prorenin. So once hydrochloric acid mixes with enzyme pepsinogen, then that pepsinogen gets activated and converted into pepsin. And this pepsin, the active enzyme pepsin, it will act upon the protein that is present in the food and convert into intermediate product like peptones and proteases. It is not the final product of protein, because the final product of protein, the simplest form of protein is amino acid. So this is the intermediate product that is formed by the digestion of protein with the help of enzyme pepsin. And pepsin is the active enzyme, but it was inactive before, and the inactive form was pepsinogen. Later on, with the help of hydrochloric acid, the pepsinogen get activated and convert into pepsin. Now we have another enzyme known as prorenin. It is also inactive enzyme, and this also get activated by the help of hydrochloric acid and converted into renin. And the main function of renin is to help in digestion of milk, of protein present in the milk known as casein. And this hormone is not present in the adult, it is present only in infant. And when this renin acts upon a milk protein known as casein, then it converts into an intermediate product known as paracasein, and this paracasein will mix with the calcium that is present in the milk and convert into cord-like structure known as calcium paracaseinate. And this calcium paracaseinate uh, finally finally mix with the enzyme pepsin and convert into the intermediate product known as peptones and proteases. We have another enzyme produced in stomach, that is known as lipase, and as I told, it is not that much strong in stomach, It is very weak in stomach due to the effect of hydrochloric acid and just digest a small amount of fat, converting fat into fatty acid and glycerol. So we have mucus, and that mucus, the main function of mucus is to reduce the acidic effect of hydrochloric acid, pepsin or renin to the wall of stomach. So it helps to prevent autodigestion of wall of stomach. Similarly, it makes the food slippery so that the food easily can move from stomach to small intestine. The acidic food that is present in the stomach, now it is known as chyme, and this chyme will move towards the small intestine, and the first part of the small intestine is known as duodenum. So duodenum receive bile juice from the liver and pancreatic juice from and intestinal juice, but pancreatic juice will receive from the pancreatic juice, and intestinal juice will be received from the intestinal gland present on the wall of small intestine. So let's talk about bile juice. So bile juice, it is produced by the liver and it opens into the duodenum. And bile juice, though it is a digestive gland, but it doesn't have any enzyme. So that's why it doesn't help in digestion directly, but indirectly what it does is it helps to emulsify the fat. That means if the fat molecules are big enough, then what does it do? It converts into a small form and make the small fat molecules. So this process is called emulsification. So bile juice doesn't have direct role in digestion because it doesn't have any enzyme inside it, but it helps to uh, emulsify the fat or breaking down the last fat molecules into smaller so that digestion of fat becomes easy, and this process is known as emulsification. Similarly, uh, when the food was in stomach, you know that it was acidic, and when the acidic food, which is known as chyme, comes into small intestine, then this liver produces bile juice, which is acidic in nature. It helps to neutralize the acidity of uh, hydrochloric acid of food. Now we have another gland, pancreatic juice. It also secretes its juice known as pancreatic juice into the small intestine. So it also contains various enzymes like trypsinogen, trypsinogen, peptidase, pancreatic amylase, pancreatic lipase, and nucleases. So these all enzymes help to digest different kind of nutrients present in the food. And here trypsinogen, it is also inactive enzyme. So it will be activated by another um, enzyme that will be produced by the intestinal gland, and that is called enterokinase. So it activates trypsinogen into trypsin. Similarly, we have another enzyme known as chymotrypsinogen. It is also inactive enzyme, so it will be activated by this trypsin into chymotrypsin. So these all enzymes helps to digest different kind of nutrient. Like we have first two enzymes like trypsin and chymotrypsin. They help to digest the intermediate product of protein that was formed before, that is known as peptide and proteases into polypeptides. And this is still the intermediate product, and this polypeptide is further converted into amino acid and simpler peptide by the enzyme known as peptidase. And since amino acid is formed means it is the final digestion of protein. Similarly, there might be carbohydrate, starch or glycogen, and it will be digested into simple form of carbohydrate known as maltose or isomaltose, which is still intermediate product by the enzyme known as amylase. And we have fat, emulsified fat. And why we call it emulsified fat? Because this fat has been broken down into small form by the bile juice produced from liver, and it will act upon by lipase and convert into fatty acid and glycerol. Similarly, the food may contain nucleic acid, and nucleases enzyme converts into nucleotides. Now let's go to intestinal juice produced by intestinal glands. So it is present on the wall of intestine, small intestine. So intestinal gland also produce different enzyme like aminopeptidase, dipeptidase, maltase, isomaltase, sucrase, lactase, nucleotidase, nucleosides, and lipids. So polypeptides, which is present in the previous case, it will be converted into simpler form by the enzyme known as aminopeptidase into dipeptides, and dipeptides will be converted into the simplest form of protein, that is known as amino acid, by the enzyme known as dipeptidase. Similarly, we have this transition product of carbohydrate like maltose, sucrose, and similarly lactose, isomaltose. They all are digested into simplest form, that is glucose, by the various enzyme like maltose converts into glucose by the help of enzyme known as maltase. Sucrose converts into glucose by the help of enzyme known as sucrase, and the lactose present in the milk, it converts into glucose and galactose by the help of enzyme known as lactase. Isomaltose, it is converted into glucose again by the help of enzyme isomaltase. And emulsified fat, it converts into the simplest form, fatty acid glycerol, by the help of enzyme known as lipase. And nucleotides, which are present in the nucleic acids, it is converted into the very um, simple form by the enzyme known as nucleotidase. So after complete digestion, the semi-solid food that is present in the small intestine is known as chyle. So if you remember, in buccal cavity, it was semi-digested food was known as bolus, and when it come to stomach, then it was semi-digested but acidic food that was known as chyme, and the completely digested food that is present in the intestine, now it is called chyle. So food is completely digested in small intestine. So after the completion of digestion, now absorption will take place. And in small intestine, the digestion has completed. That means all the complex food has converted into simplest form. Like carbohydrate has turned into glucose, protein has converted into amino acid, and the fat has turned into fatty acid and glycerol. So after the conversion into simplest form, now absorption will take place in small intestine only. So small intestine has got many finger-like projection, and those finger-like projection are known as villi. And the villi is highly supplied with blood vessels. So once the digested food comes into the lumen of the small intestine, then by the help of diffusion, the nutrients present in the digested food will move towards the inside the villi, because villi is highly vascular. It is present, there is presence of large amount of blood. So with the help of diffusion, whatever the nutrients present in the digested food, it will be transferred into the blood present in the villi. And those simplest nutrients are glucose, amino acid, water, vitamin, minerals. They will be absorbed in blood. Similarly, fatty acid, glycerol, and fat soluble vitamins, they are absorbed in the blood, a kind of fluid that is present on the wall of the villi, that is known as lymph. After digestion and absorption, whatever the leftover, that is now known as feces. So that feces which are formed, that has to be thrown out, and that process is known as egestion. So as the chyle or the digested food enters into large intestine, then excess water that is present in the feces, that will be reabsorbed by the wall of large intestine, and after that, the whatever the remain part, that is feces, which will be stored in rectum, and finally thrown out through the anus. So with this, we completed digestive system. Thank you so much.